ultimate glory. Few manage to keep their date with destiny. But for many, it's been heartbreaks and a cross to bear. The Holy Grail is here in India. I'm Rupha Ramani, and Firstpost brings you the ringside view. We bring you the Cup of Dreams. Cricket World Cup coverage like never before.
It's back again! It's over! He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani, and let's get started. Now, it's an action-packed show heading your way today. The biggest controversy hit World Cup just last evening. The man responsible for this cricket's problem child, Shakib Al-Hasan. He smirked and smiled his way to timing out Sri Lanka's Angelo Matthews, leaving a trail of fire raging on with the Sri Lankan team seething. Former cricketers picking sides. We will get you the whole picture and the two perspectives right here. Also, what is Saudi's next sporting aim? You have to wait and watch to know more about that. And is this the end of the road for the Hamilton-Mercedes love story? All that and more heading your way. But first, a look at all that's making headlines from around the world of sports in Sports 360. The legendary Sachin Tendulkar met the Afghanistan cricket team at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium yesterday. Tendulkar was seen sharing his insights and knowledge with the Afghan players. Some of them also gifted him a memento. Afghanistan, of course, in a must-win match against Australia to find a chance to qualify for the Cricket World Cup semi-final. Punjab clinched its maiden Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy title yesterday. It's a T20 tournament here in India. They beat Baroda to win in the final by 20 runs. The top scorer was a centurion in the Punjab squad. BCCI and Punjab's cricket associations each will give a reward of 80 lakhs to the team. The Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, as I've told you, is a domestic T20 cricket championship in the country. In tennis, Swiatek reclaimed the world #1 spot in the women's singles rankings. She clinched the WTA Finals trophy last night. Swiatek dominated America's Jessica Pegula 6-1, 6-love in straight sets. The match lasted just 59 minutes. In football, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has given an update on Erling Haaland. Guardiola says Haaland is yet to fully recover from the ankle injury but is feeling better. Haaland had suffered the injury when the Sky Blues beat Bournemouth 6-1 on Saturday. A final decision on the striker's inclusion in the playing 11 will be taken a few hours before his next match. Man City faces Swiss club Young Boys tomorrow. And the World Cup kissing scandal saga continues. Jenny Hermoso said she received threats after the Luis Rubiales kissing incident. The Spaniard said that people made her feel responsible for the consequences which followed the non-consensual kiss. Hermoso did not elaborate more on the threats, however. Oh, it's been a tournament to forget for the Sri Lankans. Suffering a humiliating loss to India was probably just the penultimate blow. The heated encounter against Bangladesh yesterday, with two-star all-rounders amidst them, Shakib Al-Hasan and Angelo Matthews, at the centre of it was probably the final nail being driven in. Let's first tell you what exactly happened. Now, after the dismissal of Sadira Samaravikrama in the 25th over by Shakib, out walks Angelo Matthews. He reaches the crease and just as he's about to face the Shakib delivery, his helmet strap breaks and he indicates his team to get another helmet. Now, bear in mind that he's yet to face a delivery. Until the time a new batter does so, the clock is ticking. According to the law, any batter who comes in only has a stipulated time of 3 minutes to get into bat and face the first ball. In World Cups, that 3-minute time frame is further reduced to 2 minutes. Now, while this commotion is underway, Matthews signalling to his dugout to send in another helmet, someone walks up to Shakib to urge him to appeal his dismissal for taking more than the stipulated time given to face his first delivery. And Shakib, the troublemaker that we all know him to be, promptly walks up to the umpires, Erasmus and Illingworth, and appeals to dismiss Matthews, saying he has taken much more time than allotted. Matthews is shocked and pleads his case with the umpires, saying it was equipment malfunction and that he really had already walked in well on time. Umpires are a tad confused at this point, and in all fairness, because nothing like this has ever happened before, they ask Shakib if he would consider withdrawing his appeal. Matthews too walks up to Shakib and tries to reason with him. Shakib doesn't budge, just a quick nod to say he's not withdrawing the appeal. And for the first time ever in international cricket, a batter is timed out. Sri Lanka lose a key wicket, that of their senior-most hand. We saw an angry Matthews, of course, fling his helmet and bat right after he crossed the ropes. He is definitely livid. And even though the Lankans rebuilt post this jolt to set up a challenging total, they knew it was a target that was definitely some runs short. Bangladesh gave a solid answer in response, and leading that was the captain himself, Shakib Al Hasan. In fact, when Matthews dismissed him for his well-made 82, he too indicated his watch to say Shakib's time was up. But Bangladesh did manage to get across the line. The Lankans, meanwhile, were still seething with what happened in the first innings, so they refused to shake hands with any of the Bangladeshi players. The bitterness continued on to the intense post-match press conferences. Matthews was enraged and called Shakib's move disgraceful.
If they want to play cricket like that, stoop to that level, obviously there's something wrong drastically. It's lack of common sense and bringing the game into disrepute. Absolutely disgraceful. In my 15-year-old career, I have never seen a team going down that level. I don't think any other team would do that because it was black and white. It was equipment malfunction, the helmet coming off. It was a big safety issue as well. Shakib had the option of recalling, but he decided to go the other way.
For Shakib's credit, he remained cool and cold because he knew he had to back up his own decision to bring Matthews down on a technicality.
One of the fielders came to me and said, if you appeal, the law says he's out because he hasn't taken guard within the time frame. He came and asked me whether I would withdraw my appeal. I said, I understand your situation, it's unfortunate, but I don't want to. We had to win this match. When you are fighting a war for your team or country, I believe everything is fair.
All is fair in war, he says. This match, where Bangladesh were placed at the 9th position and a 7th placed Sri Lankan side were battling, was war. Maybe he was talking about his foresight to getting Bangladesh to qualify for the Champions Trophy in 2025, where only top 8 teams, including Pakistan, would feature. Now let's look at this incident itself first to get some perspective. We have seen teams and players push the envelope, but staying well within the rule book to force certain decisions or calls that has never occurred before. The famous munkering incident with R. Ashwin, of course, comes to mind. Now, there was a lot of questions raised when that happened. Was Ashwin well within the law to do that? Yes. Was it unusual? Yes. But is it wrong? Well, not really. Why do we say not really? Because yes, though it is about the sense of competition, it's also about probably working within the margins we have and given that yardstick to error. Post that episode, of course, and some others, ICC went ahead to amend the rule book, saying the bowler had to definitely give a warning once before proceeding to run the non-striker out. Because while the bowler is well within his rights to munkard or run the non-striker out for gaining undue advantage by stepping well outside the crease, a warning sets things right in the heat of the moment, when winning is paramount. Now let's look at this incident. Was Matthews taking any advantage by requesting a change in helmet or taking a little extra time? No. Could Shakib have reconsidered his appeal? Well, yes, but he knew there was no backing down once he had. Because let's also see it from his point of view before we look at Matthews. He's the captain of his side. They have had a history of run-ins with the Sri Lankans in the past. It's a rivalry that you don't want to be on the losing side of. Shakib, in his head, is setting an example for his team of his attitude to winning and winning at all costs, especially when the rule book is by your side. Was Shakib right in appealing? Well, yes, but we all know how that makes him look. Definitely a lonely figure, much like how some of the world was divided over Ashwin. But Shakib is different. What may alienate him further is his past. They say a past should have no bearing on the decisions you make in the present, but as humans, can we separate the two really? Probably not. His temper tantrums, the fights with umpires, kicking stumps in anger, for which he was suspended, of course. He Here is a player, a captain, who was banned for 2 years after he failed to disclose that he was approached to engage in corrupt conduct. So Matthews is probably justified in feeling some sense of anger, because no one likes anyone flogging a dead horse. Sri Lanka, already having a horrid tournament, probably did not need this to drag them down any further. Having said that, could Angelo Matthews have been circumspect, faced this delivery? He was after all playing a spinner and not a fast bowler, and then changed his helmet after that one delivery. That helmet could have lasted one delivery at least. The calculated answer will have to be yes, but his point was safety first, and we admit that is important. In fact, Matthews has not calmed down yet post the incident. He went ahead and tweeted about it, sharing the exact time code of the batter getting out and him walking in, well within the time. Contrastingly, knowing the kind of character Shakib is, many of us who have covered him or this side would know he couldn't care much about this right after. He wouldn't care what people thought of him or what implications his decisions might have. No wonder he flew back to spend time with his mentor in the middle of the tournament. He's done that also. It is easier to make Shakib the villain in this narrative. The answer, though, probably is in the why rather than the what. This encounter was crucial for Bangladesh, and their not-so-pretty face-offs in the past against the Sri Lankans made it easier for him to take the fall for not playing in the spirit of the game. So the answer probably lies somewhere in between. There are many greys in sports, characters and who are legends but are probably misunderstood. Shakib, who is undoubtedly one of the best all-rounders the subcontinent has produced, probably falls perfectly in this category. Do we tolerate these characters and embrace them as part of the sporting facade, or do we admonish for future generations to pick up the rights from the wrongs? That's the delicious puzzle this incident leaves us with. Now, all roads seem to be leading towards one country when it comes to hosting sporting events. In the heart of West Asia, oozing with wealth because of its oil reserves, we're talking about Saudi Arabia. A nation that has been a conservative state is now on a mission to becoming the world's next sporting hub. Its latest ambition, it wants to acquire a stake in Indian cricket's most lucrative tournament, the Indian Premier League or the IPL. And they are not talking about a minor share, it's a multi-billion-dollar stake. Now, I'll tell you where this interest stems from, what lies behind the ambitious quest. The IPL is the richest cricket league in the world, we know it, worth as much as $30 billion. And Saudi officials are promising to invest $5 billion into it. They are now in talks with the Indian officials to ink the deal. Reports say that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammad bin Salman pitched this idea during his recent trip to India. Now, cricket is one sport that has a massive following and by that extension, a massive viewership, particularly in South Asia, where cricket outperforms other disciplines. It remains the most watched game. Right now, the BCCI bars other Indian players to participate in leagues abroad. Restrictions are laid for even the most prominent events, like the Big Bash League, the Caribbean Premier League, or the 100 in England. Now, after pumping money into football, Formula One and other major disciplines, Saudi Arabia is vying to dig its claws into another global sport like cricket. Although several T20 leagues have sprung up since the IPL was launched, barely any have been able to give the Indian Premier League a stiff competition. Now, Saudi's sovereign wealth fund has splurged billions to widen its sports portfolio. Why is this ambition critical? Let's take you back to where it all started. One of Saudi's first sporting investments started in 2014 when WWE was brought into the country. It saw wrestlers like John Cena feature in it. And the country has regularly kept pumping in the moolah when it comes to sports. Reports say at least $6 billion have been spent on sporting investments since 2021. And this figure is before the mass exodus of star footballers to Saudi shores. Now, it's a no-brainer. If big names are attached to an event, it will draw more traction. Fans watch sports because their role models are in it. It's this strategy that the kingdom is tapping into. This massive influx of money into sporting events has caused controversy. Critics are calling it sports washing. What does that mean? When Saudi hosted its first F1 Grand Prix in 2021, for example, human rights groups accused the country of using these events to clean up its tarnished image in the international community.
Formula One has a corporate responsibility to respect human rights, and there's some really big human rights risk in doing this event in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has an appalling human rights record, and it is using events like Formula One and also major boxing and football events to try and sports wash its image.
A similar pattern can be found everywhere in all their sporting ventures. What better way to tap into a sport that has a giant following up until now? Saudi's tourism industry and its oil giant Aramco were sponsors of the Indian Premier League last year. A staggering $6.2 billion was invested to get broadcasting rights. A stake in the IPL franchise would mean new agreements, and who knows, this dream is unstoppable. In the future, they could want to even co-host it. Their neighbours did that, UAE, in one of the editions of the IPL, so why can't they? Quite recently, Riyadh announced it would host the first ever esports World Cup. We told you the implications of that right here.
I mean, honestly, we're super excited to be hosting the Esports World Cup. Just look at the Gamers 8 when we hosted that. It was during a shorter period of time, and we've seen more than 2.6 million people attend. So can you imagine that number multiplying we're moving from an event which was Gamers 8, which was a few weeks, to a 2-month event for the World Cup. So we're super excited to see those people come into Saudi, visit Saudi. And, the beautiful thing about esports is that it's the future of live entertainment, but it's also a borderless sector, which is something that we thrive for in the tourism industry, because we get really to have people connect and build bridges from one side of the world to the other. So this is a great moment for us here in Saudi.
Now let's look at some of the major sporting investments that Saudi has made over the years. In 2018, a 10-year contract for hosting WWE. Then 2020, a horse racing event that became an annual tournament. In 2021, Lionel Messi signs a deal to promote tourism. In the very same year, a series of investments took place, from the McLaren Group to the takeover of Newcastle United, to the first Formula One race being held in Jeddah, to a year later, LIV Golf Tour being created. And the PIF, or the Public Investment Fund, bought 17% of the Formula One franchise, Aston Martin. Then there was Ronaldo moving to Al Nassr in 2022. That created a huge wave, which opened the floodgates in football, right up to the PIF agreeing to contribute more than $1 billion to a PGA Tour LIV Golf partnership just some months ago. Now, all these are part of a campaign, a transformation plan named Vision 2030, in which hundreds of billions of dollars are being spent to diversify the kingdom's economy and reduce its oil dependency. And it would seem that cricket is their latest obsession now. BCCI, however, is yet to respond to this proposal. And the ICC, of course, needs to give a nod for it to materialize. Basically, many things need to be in motion for this grand plan to succeed. But the relentless pursuit of emerging as a sporting giant has put Saudi Arabia at the forefront of all these discussions. Now let's switch to a different discipline that is struggling to do some damage control, Formula One. The latest Grand Prix that was held in Brazil witnessed what many would call one of Mercedes' worst performances in over a decade. Not our words, so say Mercedes' boss himself. And then came the dirty laundry that was aired in public. Their Formula One championship aspirations is now hanging by the thread. This setback is just microscopic reflection of Mercedes' struggle throughout the entire season, especially as it's just winding down. The blip indicates a larger worrisome picture for Hamilton and his team. The team's vulnerabilities have come to the forefront. Toto Wolff unleashed his fury post the race. Hamilton lambasted the car's designing. It just shows how the team is losing its stronghold in Formula One. Our next report tells you the story behind it.
Mercedes, once a dominant force in Formula One, now finds itself gripped with worry and uncertainty. The days when Hamilton and Mercedes would dominate racetracks now seems like a distant memory. The Sao Paulo Grand Prix held at the Interlagos this weekend turned out to be their worst ever nightmare. Let's break down what happened at Brazil this Sunday. Mercedes drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell had a meltdown, and it was painful to watch. Hamilton, who started 5th, finished 8th, almost a minute after Max Verstappen crossed the finish line. And his teammate George Russell retired from 11th position due to a possible engine failure. This race in Brazil exposed the underlying concerns within the team, resulting in a blame game in the wake of the event. Their team boss Toto Wolff said it was their worst performance in 13 years. Wolff said their car was akin to a three-wheeler. Hamilton's frustration lies with their car named W14. He says there's an issue with the car's floor design and that it's unpredictable. Every catastrophe has casualties, and for this one, it's the Chief Technical Officer Mike Elliott, one of the members responsible behind the car's construction. He announced that he will be leaving the team. When Hamilton and Russell were headed to the Brazilian GP, they were brimming with confidence and optimism. Mercedes had won the Grand Prix in the same venue last year, and Hamilton claimed the second spot in the previous two races in the US and Mexico this season.
I love this track. I know the track is, it's just such a cool track, man. And it's just there's something so special about Brazil, man. There's the energy here, which naturally it's the people, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the music, it's the language, which I need to learn. You know, it just makes the whole place so special.
But after a harrowing performance, the fault has been placed on the car's design. This for sure doesn't look like a team who were once the undisputed juggernaut of Formula One. Hamilton previously spoke of issues with the car's cockpit. With just 2 more races left in the circle, Hamilton is so fraught with the car, it seems he just can't wait to get rid of it. The dream Mercedes-Hamilton partnership is now at a crossroads. And the big reason for that is proving to be major design flaws in the W14 that was supposed to be an improved version. This Grand Prix has raised questions. Is this signalling the downfall of a premier F1 team? Red Bull, meanwhile, has dominated the entire season, and Hamilton admits that will remain the case for years to come. For a team that has won 8 Constructors' Championships, this season paints a grim picture. A team once untouchable is now being humbled. Hamilton hasn't won a Grand Prix since 2021, and neither has the team won the Constructors' title since then. As Toto Wolff announced, an entire overhaul is required. Perhaps that would turn the tables around.
We're coming to the end of the show, so it's time for Last Serve. Our parting shot is what we call. The sport is boat racing, and the setting is Singapore's iconic Marina Bay Sands. And the British Dragons won the race courtesy some royal assistance. Take a look.
Heads up, what's Tyson?
Prince William giving a royal flourish there. But that's all the time we have here on Firstpost. Thank you so much for joining in. As always, I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.